I'm very active in the citizen science, let's say, realm. I'm leading a working group in the Österreich Forscht, which is the citizen science platform in Austria, which is about synergies and innovation. And I'm on board of directors of the Citizen Science Association, which is based in the US. So I'm very much looking into how citizen science can be transformed to another level of thinking science in a different way, actually, and working very much with an action-driven approach. Okay, so thanks very much for giving me the opportunity to discuss with you a little bit our work and how we access the topic of citizen science. I really like to start my presentations with this slide, starting a fire without matches, because I think it is so much like a mantra regarding our work and how I think about working together in general and in citizen science especially, to start to think something new, to work together, to enforce a fire actually, which means as well to bring people together that are passionate about something on the one hand. On the other hand, fire as well means to destroy something. So there is always this kind of destruction on the way, on the process, and as well with the results. So you have to leave something behind to build something new. And that's why I like it quite a lot. I would like to talk about an ecosystem-centered approach and the role of citizen science. And I hope after my very brief presentation, you understand a little bit better what I mean by that. If I talk about my work, I'm very much focusing on the experiences I did at the Austrian Academy of Sciences in the exploration space. I funded at also Electronic Research Institute, Knowledge for Humanity, and finally, which I'm currently mainly focusing on, URBANITARIUM Future Living as a Service. So that means coming very much from the topic of science. In the beginning, I was looking into art and technology with the Electronic Research Institute, which was already starting to think much more transdisciplinary and transformative. And finally, about the society and future living.
Eveline,
yeah.
I just want to make sure, are you presenting right now? Because we don't see your presentation.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
it should.
We see your drive. We see your drive day, and we see citizen science. You've selected it, but we don't see the PowerPoint.
Okay, I try to restart the. But the PowerPoint does not work. Just give me a moment.
Sure.
You don't see it now as well?
No.
But restart. Do you see now?
Yes, we do. Came on.
Okay. So I'm starting from science and then getting more towards, let's say, the more transdisciplinary approaches, and this URBANITARIUM very much looking into society on the one hand, but on the other hand as well, futures and futures literacy. And that's what I would like to focus on in this. And what we are always having in mind is an open innovation research infrastructure where we very much look into the co-design and empowerment, where we are thinking about society where nature and environment is actor actually in the system. So that is why I'm talking about the ecosystem-centered approach, and where we are looking into a scientific approach, which is very much challenge-driven, and the challenges occur from the societal challenges, focusing on the SDGs. So our approach is related to the art-driven innovation background, where we are mainly having three parts, namely, as I said, the challenges from the Sustainable Development Goals as the value drivers, where we are very much focusing on breakthrough technologies, and finally art, artistic thinking, speculative design, and artworks. And from there, we are building art-driven innovations for society, looking into open social innovation and a humanity-centered or ecosystem-centered design. the last step I would like to look a little bit into is the participatory futures and futures lab, where we are very much trying to work towards future thinking in a variety of phases, from seeing what we are doing right now with the citizens to getting into this experimental phase, checking what are the opportunities that how we could build our futures and how we could work together and to get towards actions. That is why citizen science is for us very much an action-driven approach. We try to understand that the future is not a given, but can be worked on with the people that we are working on in actually mainly marginalized groups and groups where people think they are not the ones that are building the future. We definitely try to develop different versions about the future and shape the desirable one. And we try to make this overlap between future studies on one hand and public engagement with the participatory futures, which means actually we aim to democratize long-term and future thinking. So it's not something that is done by experts and developed by the megatrends. We try to enhance public imagination, and we definitely try to inform collective actions in the present and try to work towards these and do this especially as well with artists on our side. I want to give you an example, a recent example to understand a little bit what we're doing. This is working on schoolyards with pupils. They are doing some observation here to see how guys and girls walk around in the schoolyards. These are the tracks they have developed. If we overlap them, by looking into the tracks of females and males, we see there are definitely differences. The males are much more, let's say, flexible in their tracks, whereas the girls are much more using tracks that are already given. And that's quite important for us to understand how space influences our behavior and as well our mental development in the end. What we are trying to do is then focus as well on spaces or maps where they are mainly like to be. We have developed a method and tools that can be used for visualizing and envisioning the spaces how they want them to be. Here you see as well that we are looking into different personas, but as well for, let's say, for instance, looking into what would be if you would be an animal, if water would be sacred and so on. What would change? That's again looking into the cards. And finally, we are developing a map where we are saying, in this place at that certain point in our schoolyard, we would need this to be changed. So that's the idea of how from this visioning part, we are getting into very concrete actions that can be submitted and can be talked about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eveline. I think it would be good if we take questions together and have a good discussion to follow. So our next speaker today is Ivana. Ivana, would you like to unmute yourself and share your screen, please? Thank you.
Yes, I will. Yes, thank you. I'll just go to slideshow. I'm not sure, do you see the screen?
Yes, it's loading. Yes, we see it now.
Okay. Thank you first for the opportunity to present a little bit of my research work. I've worked at the Faculty of Agriculture at University of Belgrade as a researcher. My expertise is plant physiology, drought stress, and challenges related to climate change to agricultural production, but also fruit quality. I'm also oriented over to fruit quality in different environmental conditions. As you can see, it's mentioned also above NGO Ecological Movement Frame of Life. It is actually the organization which is the member of ESSA because we made this NGO as young experts in 2013 because we had problem with community-based approach among communities and university, because it's much more difficult to approach to local communities, which are the basis of our work as university or faculty, and much easier if you have local oriented NGO. So actually a couple of us who worked at university make this NGO because we are also the members of the local community where this NGO is situated. We are all originating from villages, and we tried to connect more science with communities, especially in rural areas. We have different expertise of work. Agrobiodiversity is the one. I'm the program director of this program, Community Seed Bank. And also we work in protected areas on wildlife conservation in cooperation with Faculty of Biology, University of Belgrade. We are also founders and members of Balkan Seed Network and members from 2024 because we are actually very young citizen science initiative. We use citizen science in our research, but we didn't know it's called actually citizen science. So this is very new concept in Serbia, I think, citizen science. These are the four main areas of work, and of course research is one important part of it. I will just briefly go into our research projects that we have. We have small research center which is located in the village in Western Serbia, and that is the place that community can use in order to work with scientists. So sometimes we have open days when scientists from Faculty of Agriculture, which are members of this NGO, come to the village and they say, this day we have citizen science research related to seeds, to apples, and we use only, because it is in village, non-destructive methods, which doesn't produce any chemicals, which is important when you have citizen science center outside of the city, when you don't know what to do with toxic chemicals and stuff. It's important to have this environmental, I think, perspective. This is part of our research with beans, that we have traditional genotypes of beans, and we did it with citizens. I will also tell something more here. This is one of our research works about the evaluation of fruit quality of traditional apple genotypes in Serbia. What's interesting in this paperwork that actually citizens did sensoric analysis, because we found out that actually citizens who are not experts in fruit breeding and fruit quality are better evaluators of sensory characteristics because they are consumers. They are the ones who have the final word. Is this apple too sour, too sweet? Does it smells good? So we made citizen science event, and this paper was published in last year, 2023, at one international conference. And this is another one, research with additional fruit genotypes, where citizens were included about autochthonous apple genotypes. Unfortunately, in that time, we didn't know exactly more about citizen science, so we call citizen scientists as panelists who actually perform sensory analysis. And we didn't include them more. They were just data providers, but in future we plan to go further and to include them more in data analysis and dissemination. We also participated as farmers in this Radiant project. It was a nice project oriented toward traditional agriculture and traditional land races. We made citizen science event because we have a lot of material, and every citizen had its own thing to do. One person was measuring seed number, another person seed weight, third person seed, for example, seed length, etc., and finally yield. So every citizen had its own role, and this publication will be done, published in this year in May. At one international conference in Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's very interesting because it provides output about low input wheat growing. Of course, we had one research project funded by Impetus Project, Citizens for SDG 51. We wanted to expand one protected area based on data provided by citizen science. I will post afterwards the link where you can see in English what happened during this project. It was situated in one small protected area in Western Serbia. And this is what we got. orange line is how protected area looks right now, and yellow line it's what we gave to authorities as a proposition how to expand the protected area. We connected experts with citizen scientists, and actually we recorded during 6 months 44 species. 12 species were new for Serbia, 1 new genus for Serbia, and we found 6 new species for science. It means you can find them only here and nowhere else in the world, which is really a good output. Publications will be done in the next 2 years because of course we need time to write the paperwork about this, and my colleagues from Faculty of Biology are doing this part. And this is our running project funded by our Center for Promotion of Science. It is Project Ecosystem Services Assessment of this protected area. So it is basically the continuation of the previous project, where we plan to assess ecosystem services provided by this biodiversity. Because we saw that we had problem with data analysis, citizens including in data analysis, this project also has one important training which is planned, and that is training on data analysis and dissemination. So we want to include them more in the process of data analysis. Of course, sometimes it's not possible, you need some level of expertise, but still we think that citizens can help more if they have the tools and some basic principles of data analysis. So basically, I think I'm like, it's 5 minutes, sorry if I pass the time a little bit for 1 minute or two, so that's it.
It's okay. Do you want a minute or two extra to talk? It's fine if you do.
No. I will just now paste the link if somebody wants to see it. Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Such interesting projects. I come from a completely different field, so it's very enriching for me to learn about different fields of sciences as well and your experiences. Okay. Any questions from the audience before we go to the chat? Please feel free to unmute yourself, to turn on your camera if you feel comfortable, and ask your questions. Yes, Silvana.
I have a couple of questions. The first one is about acknowledging the participation of citizen scientists, because I'm part of several citizens projects, and thinking about the future and the publication, it's something that really puzzles me, because I would like to acknowledge all the people. I'm still not there, so I would like to know about your experience about it. The other one is Ivana, for example, talked about involving citizens not only in data collection, but also in dissemination and analysis. But what about design? I mean, do you have experience in involving citizens, scientists in the design of the experiment? And so what's your opinion about it? And it's for both speakers. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe.
Anna? Yeah, sure.
Well, regarding the acknowledgement, in this paperwork that we already published last year, we mentioned by name, of course, if they agreed to it's very important to have the agreement, of course, of the person to be publicly mentioned by name, who helped us in which direction. Unfortunately, without data analysis help or some more involvement, we couldn't put them as authors, but that's also a possibility. Why not to put them as authors of the paper if they after these trainings manage to do it. Regarding we also acknowledge them regarding the final report. They helped us with final report that went to our government. So when we wanted to expand the area, we have to give the huge report to our environmental Institute for Environmental Protection, and citizens helped with that. And for data dissemination, when it comes to this kind of project where community has some benefits out of it, it's very important for stakeholders to see community besides scientists, because local authorities don't care much if some scientists said something, but it's important if local community is there and they are with us disseminating data, giving flyers, explaining for people what we do. We involve citizens in one step in data design. It is which area we should visit, because actually for us it's very difficult. For example, we found out about some caves that were never mentioned before from local people. So we sat down with them and they said, okay, we think this should be included, this area to visit, these caves to visit, and actually the new species were found in those caves. So they helped us only in data collecting, data dissemination, some parts, but of course in the proposal which area we should visit and which area should be expanded. Regarding, maybe should I respond to questions in chat, maybe because I see one. It's about political uptake. The political impact that we had, that we gave our proposal to authorities at national level, and they responded at the end of December that this year they will visit again because they need to confirm every step that we did. They will actually, they accept our initiative and the procedure started. Which research steps did the citizens engage with, data collection completely, and which area we will cover. This was the most important part, and some parts of data dissemination, and the outcomes of the research. We expect 3 scientific publications about the new species. One of them is internationally important because it gives us this knowledge dot which was missing from the literature, and other outcomes, we think that area will be expanded, and of course, because there are some plans to make some dams on this river etc. This project will prevent this, which is very important impact, because now we have evidence-based data that any human interventions shouldn't be done there because it's refugee space. Our data showed that it is refugee space, which for the last million years was used to save the species. So if I didn't respond right, please just tell me, so I will try to elaborate. Yes.
Thank you, Ivana. Eveline, would you also like to mention, I think, Silvano's question about like how do you acknowledge participation of kids or citizens in this case?
The acknowledgement level is definitely something which is very hard, and we are looking very much into it, especially as I've mentioned, we work against the background of open social innovation, which means we are working not just with citizens and researchers and try to make citizens researchers, but rather ask a systemic question and then find the knowledge carriers that are related to it and find solutions for all. That means that the acknowledgement for a certain group or even within a certain community, a certain person might be totally different. For example, artists might be more interested in working on an exhibition a researcher needs, and with needs, I really need needs, and that's some trouble as well. Well-established paper to have done good work. And I do think that's still a crucial thing, which is bad actually with citizen science, or with doing citizen science. For sure, we are acknowledging the people that are related to any kind of knowledge creation, I would put it like that, in mentioning their names, but we are trying to definitely work with open licenses as much as possible, even if we are working with the business realm, so that we can make use of the knowledge on the one hand as far as possible, and on the other hand, creating real impact in all these areas too. So I do think that's an important fact as well. And that's why I'm often saying, well, slightly thinking about citizen science as citizen action or action-driven citizen social innovation. So it's a little bit, this action approach is very heavily connected in our work. There was a question related to the design of the project as well. So we are actually doing this by design, put it like that, and trying to work especially on these where we are working with citizens in the whole process of designing their research questions. So we are going into an already existing group. That's as well a usual approach from my side. We are not building a citizen science group for a project, but the other way around. If I'm aiming to follow a certain research question, I'm trying to find where are already communities and citizens groups that are already working with a topic, that already have a pain discussed in there or have some certain needs that they are already trying to address. And then I'm trying to make this connection and try to work from there. This means figuring out how can their, let's say, their question they are already addressing be merged with the research question that I'm focusing on and trying to make happen, put it like that, is rather my approach than the other way around it, trying to make the citizens fit into my research approach. And that fits as well with very much with the participatory futuring. So we are definitely looking into how could we start to work with a group and bring them to the next level by adding science or arts or knowledge from companies into this certain group, and bring definitely different knowledge carriers together. I realize this is one of the hardest works to do, because you have to be quite flexible, and as well from the point of view of scientists, again, to say this is not an open field where we are acknowledged from our side. And I do think this is one of the big problems. If we now discuss it in a network, I think from the researchers approach, there needs to be done some work to say we should be and should get much more flexible towards what is an outcome for a citizen and what would impact mean, and especially if we are talking about citizen science. So it's definitely something to rethink the results, and the results are the acknowledgement for the group. So as I said, we do have these participatory processes where we are developing, for example, exhibitions. Then there might be some acknowledgement in some quite in a variety of ways. You can for sure write a brochure that's related to it, and that can be a little bit more scientific. It can be that some are presenting more or less their work, their outcomes, their results in a more artistic way or not. There might be companies that are building on this again, so that it's definitely a variety. This as well leads me to the question of involvement. Citizens are involved deeply in our processes, and as well, that was why I was pointing out the variety of organizations, if I want to call it like that. I have found it during my work life, because they do not make a fit. It's also an Academy of Sciences. There is the scientific approach, and the scientific approach is very much focused on a certain result as well in the non-transdisciplinary realm. So you are very much bound to certain, to focusing on questions that might not really interest the citizen, and you have to make him fit into your research, and that's not what's my approach. So that's why, as well, this playing around with founding organizations means, as well, from my point, finding the right realm to make happen research and collaboration in a broader way with certain people and with certain groups of people. And finally, yes, I had a question with talking about games and why they are critical, or how we do it. That was actually the first game we developed was related to a collaboration with a design student that was doing her PhD thesis on this, and that was her, let's say, her approach towards getting accustomed to or dealing with citizen science and the participatory approaches. So the games that I presented and most others that we have developed are process oriented, so they are relatively open, put it like that. We do have some that are relatively agnostic to the topic, but rather related to you want to participatory develop a topic which is where you talk about the topic and you talk about the technologies that you're using, for example. So that's kind of looking into which technologies, but it is agnostic, and we adjust it related to the topic that we are dealing with, or the age group we are dealing with. Especially the game I was presenting related to the space is not addressed to children, it's not addressed to citizens. It's definitely a totally open game, which is about visualizing your spatial surroundings, and we are applying the game in quite different areas from Spain, Poland to Austria, in different communities. We just started to play it with school children or with even younger children. It was developed actually for adults or in collaboration with adults. So the main focus is just that it is about thinking about space and creating your space in a way, and that it's helpful for you and a certain topic, but it's not about schoolyards, for example. It can be any surrounding and any spatial dimension you look into.
Thank you, Eveline, for your answers. Do we have any other questions for the speakers? Oh, yes, Andy. Sorry, am I pronouncing your name right? How do you...
Yes, correct. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. It has been a great session so far. Thank you both for the insightful presentations, dear Ivana and dear Eveline. From what I understand, both of the projects and the experience through the projects are quite mature, in the sense that at least several examples have been, let's say, tested and illustrated in regard to this. As our community is, I'm considering is a mixed group where some of us are newly becoming engaged in citizen science and some of us are more mature and experienced in this regard. Can you mention maybe several insights in regards to what practices were best, especially for your implementation, and what was the most difficult points in regard to your projects? I know that the project scopes can be different and there can be different needs, but there might be several commonalities that would give great insights to us. Thank you so much again, and thank you all.
Would anybody like to answer the question? Yes, Ivana.
Regarding our projects, we had, of course, some mistakes at the beginning. And one of them was basically what Eveline said: we have to think about the needs of the community. And does the community wants protected area where it cannot use anymore the wood and do all the practices that they had in the past? So it was for us important during the project to find this monetary aspect of biodiversity and protected areas. And that's why we now go to other project, which is ecosystem services assessment, to provide the monetary evidence why this is important, and to provide some models that will save biodiversity, but still provide income for people who will have land now inside the protected area. And that was one of the obstacles we have. So we have basically, I think what is also very much important, we actually made one user manual in Serbian for all new citizen science initiative, where we wrote it's very important to consider all legal issues about the citizen science initiative, that is consent form, working with minors and sensitive groups, and what is also really important for specific topic. For biodiversity, citizen scientists cannot collect biodiversity like animals or plants which are protected. So that was the challenge. So you need to examine all legal scopes that are attached with a citizen science project. And I think it's very important to be very transparent about your work, why are you doing this, and about the outcomes. If the outcome is only scientific paper, I don't recommend it. It's not real city. It has to have some advocacy, some policy, something the community will get at the end. or even to improve position of citizen scientists in the country, to make them more visible. So they need to get something out of the project, and that's the case with all citizen science projects. It doesn't have to be monetary, but I think like ethical or some other thing. And it's also important to involve all the interested stakeholders. We cannot exclude some stakeholders because they are against our project. And we have to be good at lobbying and to think about all of these aspects to involve local community and local municipality and everybody we can think of. So I think this stakeholder analysis is important, who will be impacted by our project, and how we can help those people understand better what we are doing and to solve some future conflicts that community can have because of our project. So basically, that are some. Yeah.
Thank you, Ivana. Hande, does that answer your question okay? I wonder if it also related to a little bit, because sometimes to me, it sounds like you're starting from a point like your project, your research project, your funding has resources to do citizen science, but in several cases for younger researchers, they could want to do citizen science, but they don't have a team who's doing citizen science. They're completely new to it. Maybe it wasn't already as a part of the project when the grants were granted. So Hande, were you coming from that perspective, or?
Definitely. I mean, the dynamism, especially birthing new approaches as the research in itself, or the practitioners and the people involved become engaged and involved and aware of the practices in themselves, needs certain new approaches to fulfill the needs that were first assessed for. So I think, I mean, I enjoy the dynamism of it, but it's quite also intricate in itself. So that's why these presentations and these value shares are quite valuable. Thank you so much. Yes, it was indeed fruitful.
Yeah, thank you. Would anybody else like to pitch in, share their own experiences with starting or introducing citizen science into their projects? Yes, Fred.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I participated with my Dutch team the last 3 to 5 years in the project SOS Climate Waterfront, researching the impact of climate change on coastal cities, and in special on the people in these cities. Of course, what we found out that the architects, most of them were architects in the group, started drawing solutions immediately. It seems if you give them a pen, they cannot first analyze, they must draw, it's their language. But doing my PhD in behavioral science, with some others, we are very interested how people react on climate change, and also in relation to government and institutions. And then what Eveline talked about was very interesting to me, that there is a difference, sorry for that, there are only 2 or 3 men in this group, that there is a difference between women and men in their behavior. In my PhD research, we found that there is some difference between people from the southern part of Europe and the northern part of Europe. Especially in the southern part of Europe, women are more in the lead to make decisions for mitigation or adaptation, to buy solar panels. And in the northern part, it's more the men that take the decisions. How strange, because when we look at the culture, we always read that in the southern countries, the men are more dominant, and in the north, women are more, how you say that, assertive. But when it comes to decision making, it looks like it's the other way around. And my question is to Eveline, have you found something like that too? It's not only behavior, but do you found also content about decision making? Who's making decision? Maybe they do it together, and the difference is small. But I'm interested because when we are looking at climate change measures, decision making is at the end more important than behavior. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this quite interesting statement and actually inspiring research question. We did not have a look into it right now. We started from this definitely spatial dimension observation and what we can do with the people and with the people in observing, and then we are getting into the next level of that. But I will come back to you regarding that one, definitely, if I may.
Thank you. That's all.
Thanks, Fred. Would anybody else like to? Yes, Claire.
Thanks, Pooja. There's a question from Muki in the chat also that I was curious about to Ivana, which was, what were your insights from realizing that your work can be affiliated with citizen science? Because you mentioned that you were calling them panelists beforehand. And how did you find out that you can call your work citizen science?
I'm sorry, I didn't see that it was above in the chat. I think it was actually because we saw this impetus call, and it was for citizen science, and it was very weird for me, like, what is citizen science? And then I found out that I use it, so it was really funny because I'm all community oriented and so on, and it was perfect for me. And I think Impetus Grant was the one, and Radiant Call, who actually gave us this perspective. And then I learned, because Impetus has this accelerator program, which it provides knowledge, etc. So when I read also the principles of citizen science on the website of association, I saw, okay, that's it, that I want to do more. I'm a young researcher and I have time to implement it. So actually I'm now mostly oriented toward this. So basically it was last year when I found out. It was late, but maybe not too late. Yeah. And this is in our country. At the end of this year, last year, we had the first call regarding the citizen science. And I think it was the first time when this construction citizen science was in media and so on. So it's very young concept for us.
Thank you, Ivana.
Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to add that so I'm working for the European Citizen Science Project alongside Pooja. We've organized this network, and I'm working with Muki directly. But in the ECS project, we have 28 ambassadors, citizen science ambassadors. But Serbia is not an EU country.
No, because I wanted to apply, but it's not EU country. No. It's a shame. I hope in one moment it will be, because it's a kind of problem. We are associated member, I think, the candidate. Yeah, candidate state. Yeah.
Yeah, because it would be nice to know the network. I think I've seen other Serbian colleagues also doing citizen science, but I don't remember where exactly.
May I ask a question in this regard to Clea? I mean, how involved is the citizen science community, or how many different types of community associations are active at the moment? Maybe as a group we could be supporting this as well. I mean, I'm joining from Turkey, which is also not an EU country, but at least to disseminate and understand the activities, it would be quite fruitful and quite helpful altogether. Any thoughts on this? Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I think Muki can also definitely add to this point. There are quite a few associations and communities. Go ahead, Muki.
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to do with this network. Our aim that to help people, you know, the most obvious one is EXA. So EXA, the European Citizen Science Association, is open to actually anyone from around the world, despite the fact that it's called a European, and the reason that it's called European is historically, at the time when it was created, at the same time, there was the Australian Citizen Science Association, the American, which is now called the Association for Advancement of Participatory Sciences, and EXA. And they're all created, so each of them kind of got things, and they are coordinated with one another. So that's, and EXA is maintaining very low registration rate. If your institution is not involved, you can absolutely join it for relatively reduced price, for like, we're not talking more, I think, than 100 euros or something of that sort. So that's one network that really worth joining, because then you can join different working groups. So according to what you're interested, there are now groups on health, there are groups on inclusion, there are groups on data management, there is a group on education, and so on. But actually what we're doing here is one of the efforts of creating a new network of early career researchers or people in different stages of the career who want to be in touch with one another and start engaging in the area, or looking for mentoring, or looking for support. So one of the things that we will do, and we're aiming to do, we'll talk about it very soon, is to organize a whole series of seminars and activity to help people to integrate well citizen science and participatory research in the research proposal, and to mentor people through the process. So actually to do that. And as Clea said, we're working on the ECS project, and within that there is a whole set of training that we will do. So we'll start putting together insight and learning and sharing those things. So I would say one network, that one will be for now free, and once we set the email list, it will continue to be free and not requiring. From time to time we will mention that, hey, join EXA also, but because that's how we fund our activity, because someone need to be funded in the end of the day. Yeah. Is that an appropriate answer?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
And I've put in a few links in the chat. So you can see the top link is the page to the EU Citizen Science Ambassadors. So they range all the 28. They count the UK as well of the ambassadors. Then there's just showcasing some associations around the world. But there's one in Africa, there's one in Australia, there's one in the US, I think in Asia also. But yeah, it'd be really interesting to get you involved. It's nice that you're part of this group, but that's, I think, one point of entry, perhaps to later.
Thanks, Clea. And I think what I gathered from your emails, Clea, that there is some interest from the US citizen science community as well to become more involved in our young network. So depending on time zones, of course, because that's always the tricky part. If we can manage, it'll be great to have some collaborative meetings in the future.
Yeah, maybe I can say something about that.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, it's so the last link I sent, they've renamed themselves. They used to be called the Citizen Science Association, but now they're called Participatory Science. Let me go back to the tab. Or the advanced. Sorry, it's loading. Okay, maybe you can. It's the. All right, Advancing the Participatory Sciences. Association for Advancing Participatory Sciences, and they have just created also a network of researchers. And so it was interesting for us to connect with them, and perhaps connect this network of researchers with them also at some point. So we're going to see how we can do that. Yeah. And as Muki mentioned, when with Pooja, we also talked about a new format for next meetings. Should we go over that? Pooja,
yeah, before we start talking and taking over your space, I really want to ask anybody in the audience if they have any questions, comments, want to share your experiences, because the idea of this network is, at the end of the day, to give you the space the platform to interact, to ask questions, to make suggestions, how we can gain knowledge, share experiences. So if anybody has anything to share, please feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead. Hande, I'm curious. I remember your suggestions from last time, our first meeting as well, and that you did say that people here are a mix of different experiences, you know, and we have been thinking about how to introduce basic courses and training plans for the network. But just out of curiosity, what stage of citizen science are you personally in? Are you starting? Are you interested?
I'm currently a PhD candidate as well. My core focus is social innovation, but I'm also leading a Horizon Europe project, and I am the project manager there, where we are trying to build energy communities in regard to solar energy practices, supporting the Green Deal that we have. At the moment, we're trying to build our ecosystem, and we're trying to engage our ecosystem. So all valuable insights are quite helpful for us. And because we are also a research institute, we're trying to see the facades of the process in itself, because the research priorities are different. The trans networking, as well as like the trans research requirements, are different. So it's like a balancing game, and we're trying to move along with that. So I would say we're we're not really newly introduced, but we need to be building up our skills to revitalize the community in itself.
Understood. Clear, yes. We can probably start sharing what we were thinking, taking suggestions for the next meetings. So do you want to take that?
Sure, yeah. So yeah, thank you very much, Eveline and Ivana, again for the presentation. They were very stimulating, and for the questions also asked to Ivana and Eveline. I think we had a very nice discussion. So for a next meeting, we had planned one for the 1st of March from 12 to 1 p.m. again. And after that, we'll have more regular meetings. I think we'll send multiple invites, but the idea is to have them maybe every month and a half. And we thought of this new format, which we would be very happy for your feedback, is to have again a 5-minute presentation from any network member, and then have about a 20-minute training around a specific topic, and we will invite different speakers around that topic, and then have the rest of the time for counting in a break and the introduction and people coming in, a moment for discussion. And maybe the presentation can be linked to one aspect, to the topic of training that would happen during that workshop or that webinar. Does that sound like a good plan, or do you feel like it might take away from talking time and exchanging time between you guys, or between all?
No, I think it's a good plan, because we have a bit of different aspect of citizen science. The training, I think, is very important. And, presentation, the training can really stimulate discussion among the members. So I think it's a good plan.
Yeah, so yes, Fred.
A small suggestion. I think it can also be interesting to know in what kind of research trajectories each of us are. It's often also searching for funding, not only national, also in Brussels. And maybe each meeting can give some space to us to look for support or ideas. So when you are stuck in a call or something like that, ask for help. I think this platform is also good to help each other accelerate in research.
Yeah, we would like to create a mailing list also, and we have space for Moodle space, which can be shaped to kind of have an exchange between members. So perhaps some of these aspects can be integrated there.
Yeah, and the mailing list should be active in, we hope, 2 weeks, but they've been delayed already several times because of server problems. But it sounds like it will be solved, and that's why hopefully by the next meeting, yeah, we will be share it, and that will be the best way and easiest way to join it and have a two-way interaction. Yeah.
Any other suggestions?
No, maybe, sorry, go ahead, Andy.
I need to leave.
Maybe we might also be gathering information in regard to what specific areas of contribution our community has in regard to, for example, there was mention of agriculture. It could be solar technologies. It could be a specific like need of a community in itself. Because I think like in such practices, it's good to see maybe a different area and like common areas from a different area that we have. And I think as we exchange these examples and showcase these examples, it will become more apparent that there are commonalities and there are quite unique differences that we need to be looking on as the this course in itself is developing in itself, as we are implementing. I always say with more examples, we are more enriching the questions as well as the our answers as well. So maybe that could also be present. LinkedIn is also a good platform maybe for communication. That could also be one suggestion. But all in all, thank you for your efforts in this regard. I'm very happy to be part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Hande.
Thank you.
I think so the reason why we're all here is just did start with the survey for researchers to understand the training needs around citizen science. And so I think what did come out, the most important bits was that the stage of career track matters, right, for a younger person who's getting into citizen science compared to a seasoned citizen scientist themselves. And then the field of research matters. And then, as you very well said, that there are differences, but also unique, like similarities and also unique differences. So having these discussions is already so enriching for everybody involved here in the space. So I think, Claire, when we do think about Moodle space, I wonder, is there a possibility to have like profiles where, of course, and we have to abide by GDPR rules, and only people who are comfortable sharing their information, their emails maybe, or at least information about themselves, what research stage they're in, research fields they come from, what are their interests. And as Fred mentioned, funding is a huge issue, right? So we could have these kind of almost like interest areas or topics of discussion that we always kind of mention that we can. So if, for example, for the next meeting, we decide we're going to talk about levels of engagement, just an example, we have a 5-minute presentation, which is related to that topic from a network member. Then we have a 15 to 20-minute training around it. Then we open the floor for discussion. And of course, if we have, say, funding as a topic to discuss later, if we have time, or in the future meetings, we could include those kind of side topics as well, so that people can get, more resources and information regarding those. We had a hand up from anybody? Did I miss somebody? No. Hi, Ricardo, did you just join us? Yeah.
Hi, yes, I'm sorry to be late.
No worries, no worries. Happy to have you. Would you like to introduce yourself to the network?
Well, I'm Ricardo Dominguez. I'm from a small business company from Spain, and I've been managing and coordinating a Researchers' Night project. That is a cross-country project called Mediterranean Researchers' Night, And then I applied as MCA to the MCAA, and it's a project to direct. What the target is the broad audience, youngsters, and so on, to make science easier to them. And it's not a citizen science project, but there are many questions that maybe we can link with the project, and we do some citizen science activities in the project. So to me, it's very interesting to listen to your experience.
Thank you, Ricardo. Some people have to leave. Yes, please feel free to. Yeah, that's very interesting. And so I have recently joined the MCAA as a community manager as well. So I'm getting to know more and more about MCAA. And we are for our, if anybody here, how many people are here from MCAA, if I may just have a head count? That's it? It's just us? Or maybe the rest left because, oh, Silvani, yes, as well. Because for our annual conference, I don't know if you intend to join us. We will have a European citizen science specific workshop on day 0, and also a session, a panel discussion session where Clea would also be joining us. Well, Clea is co-organizing the workshop with us as well. So we have, because it is happening in Italy, we have invited local citizen scientists from the community, Italian speakers, who are directors at museums and have tons of experience in citizen science, in different fields of citizen science as well. Thank you, Clea, for sharing the link. And the workshop is open to everybody. So there is a registration link that will be becoming active soon, but anybody can join. And unfortunately, it's only in person, but the panel discussions would be virtually available to participate in as well. Great. I've really enjoyed today's session. I think hearing from you is so much more enriching than just us talking to you. So this was really a good idea, I think. Clea, would you like to add anything?
No, not really. But that I'm excited. So it's also been very nice. So thank you for sharing. And well, thanks for all the insights also about how we can make this network work. Because it's always tricky. The Moodle space is not the most attractive and friendliest of places. So sometimes I feel like it's hard to engage people in the Moodle space, although it can be a very nice tool to exchange about funding opportunities and things like this. So it'd be nice as later on to understand what best tools to use. And your feedback is always great.
And if you have any suggestions of spaces available online, any other tools, please feel free to share them with us as well. Great.
See you 1st of March. Perhaps.
Yes, so I'll be sharing the recording of today's meeting with everybody, and then an invitation for our next meeting on the 1st of March. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the lovely presentations, Ivana.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.